Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody is doing well today, and thank you for joining us. We appreciate your participation. If you can hear us, can you type one in the chat?
No one can hear us. Oh, wait, we got.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. Perfect.
What happened?
All right.
All right. While you're there, can you tell us where you're joining us from?
Oh, perfect. Good, because I was going to do that if she didn't do it. Because it's always fun to see where one's from.
Right.
Because we have people that will join us from all over the country.
Yeah. So depending on the part of the country you're in right now, I have to start with this today. I'm very schizophrenic because I'm from Southern Indiana, but I went to law school at Miami. So I'm very divided today with the national championship game. I was literally yesterday, I was wearing an IU hat, and then today I'm wearing my Miami shirt, and everyone's like, I can't figure out what you are doing, but my whole family went to IU except for me. But anyway, I just feel like, well, I went to school there, so I should probably root for Miami. But if Indiana wins, I'll be pretty happy.
For those of you that don't know what's going on, he's talking about football.
Football, yeah, it's just a sport.
I knew what was wrong.
Well, I can see why I can confuse people because you usually don't use the word Indiana and football together. The first year where that's actually a thing. So, yeah.
All right.
Argentina. All right. Who are they rooting for down there? I don't know.
They're probably playing soccer.
Yeah, that's right.
Real football.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for participating in answering my little question. I appreciate it. Was quick introduction. My name is Jane Georgilis, and I'm with the Texas State University Small Business Development Center, or SBDC, and we're a part of the Texas Southwest SBDC network. And the mission of our network is to foster small business success with the vision to be the premier resource for small business resources here in Texas with our values are integrity, excellence, service, and innovation. We've been serving the Texas Southwest region since 1987, and we provide professional business advising, training, as well as market research to startups and established small business at no cost. Within our network, we have 10 SBDC centers and 3 specialty centers, and we are all accredited member of the Americas SBDC nationwide, which have 1,000 plus location. And like I mentioned earlier, our program is funded by the tax dollar that has been paid, so we provide a service to you at no cost. And here are the services that we offer. And if you are interested in utilizing the service of an SBDC, whether you're within our network or outside of our network, please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen or use the website down below to locate your local SBDC. And this is a friendly reminder that the perspective that's shared by our panelists today reflect the individual viewpoint and do not constitute official position of Texas State SBDC. And if you would like to, because since this is a listen only webinar, if you would like to interact with us, please feel free to send your question in the chat so the panelists can address them. All right, and I'll pass it over to Jana so we can get this party started.
Party, all right.
That's a party.
Yeah.
It's so true, Jane. Thank you so much for the introduction. Yes, it is going to be a party here today because we have usually when you have the word party and lawyers, they usually don't go together. And I don't understand it because I've got two.
You don't know the right lawyers.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah. You have one takeaway, all your viewers. If your lawyer does not party, you need a new lawyer.
Yeah. I have to agree with that.
Yes. I mean, these two are awesome. I'm just so excited to have them on our panel here today. But I'm Jana Menifee. I'm with Menifee LLC. And in the chat, I've put in my website. And if you'd like to get on our newsletter to get more updates about the Strategic Value Master Series, I now have a personal assistant and she will be doing the newsletters. And so the newsletters will be going out more consistently again. This fall, I got a little behind on all of my newsletters, but she's doing it, and we just switched to something called something Fox, Send Fox. You heard of Send Fox?
Is it an
Mhm.
AI program?
No,
No.
that
That would have been a great segue.
that would have been a great segue, but
Yeah.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
But anyway, it's like MailChimp, but it's something else to look at. But
It's technology.
yeah, it's technology.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, she's going to be handling all that now. And Gladys is awesome. I just absolutely adore her. Just love having her on my team. But anyway, we've got a great panel today. Today, we're going to be talking about technology and AI integration. And usually when you hear that, people might start yawning, but AI is here to stay. It's going to be around. And if you don't know how to use it, you're going to be behind. And that's what we want to talk about today. So we have a great panel here today. So I'll let everybody introduce themselves. And let's start with Gretchen, with her being online. And we're sorry you can't be here with us in person.
Yeah, I am too. I had some transportation issues. Yeah, I'm Gretchen McCord. I run a remote all-women law firm, law offices of Gretchen McCord. I am in Central Texas. The rest of my team is actually all over the country. But we provide fractional general counsel. So that's kind of basically it's part-time general counsel services to businesses that are not at the point where they need full-time in-house general counsel to help you. And what we really focus on is the fact that 45% of businesses in the US fail within the first 5 years and 75% fail within 15 years. And the reason for that is lack of planning. So we really try to embrace that with our clients and work with them on legal. Often people think of kind of either as putting out fires or trying to prevent fires. And so we're trying to get ahead of that and say, if you really integrate legal strategy into your business planning, you can not only get ahead of things, but you can really increase the value of your business. And so that's really our focus. And I think you'll probably hear that in a lot of things that I say today because I feel very strongly about that.
And I'm doing evaluation right now where we were talking about before we got on the panel here today, but I'm doing an evaluation right now where these partners, they have 3 businesses. One of them, they had a company agreement, and the other 2, they do not. So they have one partner that is breaking away. And so 2 of those businesses are going to end up in court because they didn't have a company agreement. Go see someone like Gretchen before you have these issues. Get a good company agreement in place. Think about these things ahead of time. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. The email. So if you just go to my website, minifeellc.com, you can get onto the newsletter. Sorry, I get distracted easily. Got to quit looking at things. But anyway, yes, I think I have ADD.
I think you do too.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah.
Probably.
Well, you know me pretty well. So yeah, you probably know that. But anyway, go see Gretchen. Get ahead of it before it happens. Because then when it gets to my place, and it's kind of like, yes, it does affect your value and how the value is going to work. So important to do that. Okay. And Jason.
Hi, Jason Blair. I am a trademark, copyright, intellectual property attorney with the law firm of Neal and McDevitt. They are headquartered in Chicago, but I am here in Austin. We are an all intellectual property boutique firm, about 15 attorneys that just do IP, which right now with everything going on with AI and stuff, there's a lot of talk about it, and I think that it gets to the point where people just sort of nod off, around the 2000s, the World Wide Web, it's all coming, everybody's talking about AI, and there's a lot of bluster, but I think you're right that, some of these use cases will kind of fall out, but it's going to be here to stay, just like the internet, and we're going to have some really, some things that, 20, 30, 50 years from now, we're going to be like, how did we ever do this without that technology? And so it's really creating a lot of issues, both on the people who produce intellectual property, but also people who use it, build on it. And so it's an exciting time to be in my field of work right now. So really enjoy thank you for having me here. So
you needed to say one other thing on your introduction about trademarking your name of your business.
Okay. Yes, I think that. Yes, I think one thing that we learn a lot with people with a company. They always say, okay, they will come to me. I got a new business, but don't worry, I've registered my name as a DBA with the state. And I'm like, well, that's a trade name. It's not a trademark. They sound very similar, but they are different. They have different rights. I always kind of the lay person's way to say it is a trade name is how you identify yourself to the government. A trademark is how you identify yourself to the consumer. And it that's really what's important there. So sometimes coming in saying, okay, I filed my DBA for my name with the state. That doesn't necessarily mean that you've gotten all the trademark protection that you should. So come and talk to someone like me. And also there's things about a company's brand. It's not just the name of your company. Sometimes there are things that identify your company beyond just the name. It could even be the look and feel of your business or the color scheme. There's all kind of things that may or may not be protectable from a trademark perspective.
Like
so
music.
yeah, like music. That was actually I was at the Patent and Trademark Office. I started my career there. I am a musician. That's how I got into intellectual property. And the NBC at the time, they had boom, 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 and they wanted to try to register that because when you hear it, you think of NBC, but the trademark law was written in a way that talked about the visual elements of the trademark. And so there was a lot of questions about, well, can sounds even function as a trademark? And the Supreme Court said yes. And so I was actually hired by the Patent and Trademark Office to come in and write all the rules and regulations on sounds and things that people hear. Obviously you think about Intel or McDonald's, a lot of like little jingles that you hear little sounds that you immediately associate it with a company. So there's it's not just always a logo or something you can see. A trademark is anything that will create an association with a consumer to your business. So that's something that we can help identify if you don't know what might be protectable or not. So yeah.
And go and see a lawyer. Let me tell you from personal experience. I helped years ago. I helped set up a nonprofit, and so I've done that a couple of times. And so the first time I did it, it was like, oh, we were going to trademark, this name. And so I tried to do it on my own. And I got to tell you, people came out of the woodwork. And then they were saying, oh, I already got that trademark, or I already have this, or I need to hire you. And it was just go see Jason if you have a trademark. He's awesome. He's wonderful. And he's actually a very good musician. It's really kind of funny because he'll tell people that he's a musician and people go, are you any good? It's like, yeah, he's really great. I mean, that's how he got his start in life. He went to is it Branson?
Yeah, I grew up singing in Branson, Missouri.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right. He was on the stage. Yes. Okay, so Bill.
The only one on the stage.
Yeah.
Somebody else was on the stage in this room,
Oh.
and it wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Oh. Yeah, but I wasn't a singer. When I took.
Were you a Vegas showgirl at some point?
No,
Okay.
I was. I did acting.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done a lot of national. Well, in the past, this is years and years ago back when I was a skinny, thin, young thing. And I did a lot of national commercials because I have the girl next door look, so I'm very non-threatening, and so I did a lot of commercials and I did plays and I've done some movies, but it was all before YouTube. So none of it is out there anymore. So nobody can come back. So yes, thank you for reminding me of that, Bill.
My pleasure.
That we're talking about AI and technology. So yeah, thank God all my action was before technology. So Bill, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Bill Thompson. I'm with the Small Business Development Center, and we help small businesses start, grow, expand. And yes, you need to get an attorney. I was in a panel Thursday at the City of Austin with a bunch of entrepreneurs, brand new, wanting to be in business. And my whole contribution to that whole panel was you need an attorney, accountant, and insurance agent. And so, yes, I'm all for attorneys.
Yes. And so if you have a general attorney need, please call Gretchen. She is amazing. Yes.
Thank you.
But they wouldn't be on my panel if they weren't amazing. I'm just so fortunate that I know so many amazing people. I don't know how I hang out with them, how they hang out with me. So anyway, I guess we should get started on the panel. So are we out of time yet? Oh, no.
Yeah, there are hours up.
Yeah, yeah. With all the introduction. Okay, so let's get started. Let's start with Gretchen. As a fractional business lawyer, what are the most important contracts and legal protections small businesses need in place before adopting new technologies?
Okay, so I'm going to take a step back and say, um, just to talk about AI. So, there are a lot of different definitions out there for AI, but I will say Jason kind of analogized AI to the internet 25, 30 years ago, and I do the same thing. And I used to teach a lot of actually copyright classes to educators and all focused on digital information, online information, that kind of thing. And I would say the internet is just a tool. There's no right or wrong way to, no right or wrong about it. It's all about how you use it. And it's the same with AI. It's just a tool. So what is really most important is understanding what it does and what it doesn't do. So that, coming back to this question, is kind of the core of any kind of contract. So you should, as a business, you should have a contract, and Jana alluded to this a few minutes ago. You should have a contract with anyone that you're doing business with, whether it's a vendor or a customer or client. If you're selling tangible goods, then maybe not. But any otherwise, your customers, your clients, anybody who's doing any kind of employees, contractors, you need to have that contract for a few reasons. One is to make sure that everybody's on the same page. There aren't any surprises that come up and you realize you've been talking about the same thing, but kind of talking past each other. And now you're at a point where you created a problem because of this misunderstanding. You want that contract partly to, nobody goes into a business relationship thinking things are going to go wrong, right? You wouldn't go into it if you expected that. Things do go wrong occasionally. So you want that contract to tell you, what do we do when things go wrong? And you want that contract to preserve relationships. So a lot of times, small business owners are working with people they know, friends, family, which is great. And they say, I can't tell you how many times I see this. We don't need, I've known him for 30 years. We've been best friends. We don't need a contract. We get each other. We understand each other. I and my husband at the time went into a kind of a real estate venture with some good friends. And the first thing we all said when we first started talking about it was, we need a contract in place to preserve our relationship because we want to make very clear what's expected of each of us. And if something does go wrong, if we have a disagreement, we can point to the contract and say, well, this is what the contract says. It's not about our relationship. This is what it's kind of like your set of rules. So that's kind of my starting point for contracts. So the most important contracts you need for new technologies are any that are contracts with anyone that's providing you that technology, really. You need to make sure that you understand what the contract says. If you're not sure, I also say if the two parties, your business and the other business probably, that are a party to the contract don't understand it, it's worthless. So you need to make sure you understand everything it says. If you're not sure, it doesn't mean that you aren't smart or don't know what you're doing. It's just that's not your thing. You're not a lawyer. Talk to your lawyer about it. With AI or any technology, make sure you understand what the technology is doing enough. I mean, not in the sense of being a tech person, but why are you using this? Why do you want this? What do you think it's going to do for your business? Confirm that it really does and make sure the contract spells that out. Make sure that think about kind of worst case scenario. If something goes wrong, what would that be? And how do I protect my business about that, from that, and make sure that the contract addresses that? So from a high level perspective, I really think that's kind of it. And it's just you document, document, document.
Yeah, it makes what you're saying is it reminds me what we've been talking about in business valuations in terms of my professional organization, NACFA. One thing that we're talking about is identifying how we're going to be using AI in our valuation practice. That we have something written and document a standard operating procedure, a SOP, saying how we're going to use AI in our valuations. It isn't a tool. It's just, as you said, it's just a tool that we can use in valuation, but when it comes down to it, it still need a person to oversee it to make
Yes,
sure it's getting done correctly. And that's what's
absolutely.
so important to do it that way. All right, so Jason, well, Gretchen was talking about AI, and all right, so I'm going way off track here. I was at a presentation about a year ago, Austin Technology Incubator, and they were talking about AI in trademarks.
Mhm. Sure.
Can you address that?
Yeah. So I think, I was thinking about Gretchen's talking about, it's a tool and with AI, I see this a lot in the trademark and the copyright world. People will come to me even before AI. Oh, I've got a new, piece of art that I want to copyright. I want to copyright my website, or I want to trademark my logo. And they're always concerned about protecting it from sort of like third parties who are going to like rip them off or whatever. And then, but I usually turn it back on them and I say, okay, well, this website of yours that you want to copyright, did you do this all yourself? Yeah. Well, I had people help me. Okay, well, who helped you? Oh, my buddy or a vendor, or they have people that help them develop the things that they're looking to protect. And so I'm like, well, before we get all that lined up so that we're stopping, third parties from coming in and ripping you off, we have to have these agreements in place that the people that helped you create this, they're not going to claim that they owned it. Oh, well, he knew he was doing it for my business. Okay, well, what does your vendor agreement say? Oh, we just did it on a handshake deal, all that type of stuff. Or they look at the terms, they'll hire like a graphic artist who will come up with their trademark, and you look at the terms and it's like, I own all the artwork that I developed. And I'm like, well, they need to convey this to you. You don't own this right now. Oh, well, they said I could use it. Well, they might say you could use it, but it doesn't mean that they've given you the right to claim ownership by registering it, enforcing it. And so in a way, it kind of like it creates a drag on people because they want to jump to that next step of protecting what they think is theirs from third parties without really ensuring they own what they think they own. And so that's the first step, is usually we got to get all these agreements in place. And with AI, that's one of those deals now, especially these AI prompts, ChatGPT. You could come up with logos. Make me a logo of a bull riding in a with a lightning bolt, and it looks badass, and I'm gonna have this awesome logo. But they don't know what the terms of service on these software programs are. And in some cases, they might say anything you create, you own. But it also might say, we'll give you a limited right to use it under certain circumstances, but we're retaining the ownership. And so you have to make sure that those agreements are in place, before that's kind of the problem. A lot of times is they'll come to you with a logo or a tagline, and they've used AI. And with Gretchen's point of, you got to negotiate these contracts and stuff, a lot of times for a small business, you're not in a real position to go to Google or these companies and say, hey, I want to redline up your contract and change it. I mean, the terms of service are, you take it or you leave it. And so sometimes you might have to shop around, figure out which provider you're going to use. Are you going to use an open AI LLM? Are you going to use Gemini? Are you going to use ChatGPT? Because they all have various terms and conditions that are very lengthy and will set those parameters. So that's one of the big issues that you really have to look at first before you even start using these things to create trademarks and logos and things like that.
So it's an
And
AI.
can I
Yeah,
build
go
on
ahead,
that just
Gretchen.
real quickly?
Sure, please.
So yeah, just to make super clear, what Jason's saying is that a terms of service, a terms of use on a website, that's a contract. And when you click I agree or I accept, or sometimes just by virtue of using the tool, depending on what the terms say, you're legally bound. It doesn't matter if you didn't read it, it doesn't matter if you read it and didn't understand it. That's legally binding on you. And I guarantee any tool out there online that you'd be interested in using has some sort of terms associated with it. They might not be well written, but there's something there. And a lot of times you don't think this is just part of our daily life, right? We just don't really think about it. And it's fine when you're, just doing your personal stuff and having fun. That's one thing. But when you're acting on behalf of your business, be very, very aware of that. And to exactly what to Jason's point, read those terms, make sure you understand them and that you're willing to go along with it. And if not, then like Jason said, shop around.
I see G-Van's question right there about what about building a website? Same thing. It's not just necessarily a logo. That was just an example, but any type of software you use, if you're building your website, sometimes, if you're using clip art, I see a lot of dentist offices. They always get these photos of a family looking all happy, getting their teeth worked on. I don't know who's so happy to have their teeth worked on, but sometimes you add those to your website and you might have the ability to use it, but it doesn't mean you own those images. It doesn't mean that your website is owned. It could totally be owned, even though you put in the time to sort of design it, owned by the software, that helped you make that website. And then that company could just come and use it for whatever source they want. So that's a good question, Giovanna. It's not just limited to yeah.
In case in point, we see it happen over and over again. Somebody wants to go in small business, they'll hire somebody to do the website, and then they pay the money to do the website. Then they'll get hit conflict, and they go, "Well, I want to pull out and take the website with me." The web designer owns the website,
right? Absolutely.
So you really have to know.
In terms of trademark, we're using AI and we're using technology to develop these things. It's not a person actually developing it. Doesn't it have to be a person that actually develops it in order to trademark it?
So that's one of the big issues right now is with intellectual property, at least in the copyright realm. There have been a few cases where AI has created artwork, short films. One of them got submitted for like an Oscar consideration, and literally it was just like somebody gave it like a minimal prompt and it created it. And the Supreme Court has held that the copyright statute only grants copyright to an actual human. So AI can't own a copyright, but there's still a lot of questions there on how much prompting a human has to give it before it's human authored versus not human authored. And I think those are very good questions. Even, when you make music, it's one of those things where AI will help you. If I program in like a little drum beat and I'm not perfectly on sync, AI can, correct that. It can, affect, I want to change this cello sound to another instrument, and AI now has the ability to do that type of stuff. But there's still a human input in there. And I would argue that there's a level of human input that says, okay, even though AI created it, the human behind it still there's copyrightability there. It's something that's just totally, just give me something, and an AI literally spits out anything it wants, then it's not copyrightable. But then the issue is, then, if you didn't put enough input into it, can it even be owned? So then you have something that theoretically you can't stop other people from owning. So you don't own it either. If you just tell a AI prompt, make me a logo, and you give it no other thing and it creates a logo, technically nobody owns that thing. So then how do you stop other people? So there's a lot of interesting questions on that are still sort of, we're at the forefront of it, and court's going to have to sort of like give more guidance on what that means. But
right. So thinking about AI and technology, another thing that came to my mind while you're talking, Jason, was, all right, so now we're using this and we're using it to develop our trademarks. We're using it to come up with our company agreements and things of that sort. How protected is that information?
That's another issue you have to look at in terms of service. I'm sure, Gretchen could probably talk about this a lot too, but some of that stuff, if you're feeding this data, and maybe you own what it kicks back to you, but they also own everything that you gave to that system. And there's a lot of big lawsuits right now about, these large language models, just taking copyrighted materials, books, just, databases, and just, scraping the internet for all this stuff and compiling it. And then what is it going to do with that? And one of the issues that you'll find is, you feed it stuff of yours that's technically copyrighted, but then it adds that into its database of all these other things. And then the next person comes along and says, give me something like this. And then they're not even thinking about you, but the AI, it's like, oh, I have all this data from Jana, but she gave me, and now Jason's asking for something that's kind of similar. I'll just feed all that to her. Well, do you have a right, to sue the company that, basically shared your data with somebody else, and you have to look at those terms and conditions, because a lot of times they are in the terms and conditions that anything you feed into it, Google, ChatGPT, that company then owns that and can use it for whatever purpose with no limits. So there are definitely privacy issues.
Yeah,
Gretchen, yeah, that was my question, was going to be for you. It's like so many times on AI, we go in and we say we want to make it an enterprise AI, meaning that it cannot share the information with anything else. But is that really that safe?
it depends on it depends on the tool that you're using, and again, it's like anything else. It's partly, what do the terms say? That it's partly, too, honestly, it's just kind of a little bit of, there's always a practical side to legal, right? So is it a reliable tool? I mean, if they say that your everything that you put into it, if it really is an enterprise kind of tool, so that everything you put into it is kind of segmented just for your use and not shared with anyone else, is that really happening? What kind of what's what I'm trying to think of? Oh, well, precautions or whatever. How do they make sure that that's happening? Is this a trustworthy tool? Do you believe them? Do you trust them that they're actually going to be able to do that? Now, if they say they're doing that and they don't, then that gives you the right to go after them, to sue them. But I mean, who that's again, from a practical perspective, you want to sue or I mean, it's just that's a hard way to enforce your rights, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so does that answer your question, Jana?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, it is like be careful.
Just be
Whatever you put
careful.
out.
Yeah. The critical thinking, critical thinking. I mean, and again, AI, just to be clear, if there's anybody who's not entirely clear about this, AI doesn't actually think. I mean, some descriptions or definitions of AI says it's learning to think, it's thinking like a human. It's not really thinking, it's processing. It's a very sophisticated aggregator and processor of information, but it doesn't think in the way that humans think. It doesn't make human type judgments. It gives you output based on the factors, the data that you put into it, the queries that you put into it. But it doesn't make that analytical decision for you. It assists you in making decisions, but it can't. Now, maybe someday it'll become Hal, but today it cannot make those decisions for you. So that means you have to use critical thinking from the very start. Is this something I want to use? What kind of information am I going to be putting into it? Am I going to be putting in protected private information, personal information about my clients, about my employees? What's it going to do with that information? Am I going to be putting in copyrighted data that or materials that belong to my company? What's it going to do with that? All the way up to to kind of later, like what's the output that I'm getting from it, and what am I doing with that? What's my quality control? If I'm using AI to communicate with my clients, how am I going to check and make sure that it's telling them the right things? How am I going to know when a client gets really frustrated because AI is not giving them what they're actually asking for? Because I think we've all been there, right? Just how are you going to keep an eye on things? How are you going to know that it's doing what you want it to do?
I read a very interesting article one time about, you said about AI think, they always talk about like it thinks, like it has
Yeah.
a thought. And the test was they asked almost every AI in the world to pick a random number between 1 and 100. And I forget the number, but every single one of them like picked 62. And it was like, why would they all pick the exact same number? And it says, because they don't understand what random means. They just all look at all the aggregated data of what they think a human would consider to be a random number between 1 and 100, and they all came to the same number.
Wow.
And
That's weird, but yeah.
right, which shows you that those are the type of things that an AI, you know, I hate all the news articles. They always show some like Will Smith iRobot type humanoid looking thing. It's always got like a blue tinge to it, like there is some really thought process there, but it really just is a database of just probability.
It is.
And yeah, and
Patterns.
that's
It looks for
right.
patterns. It looks for patterns from what you're inputting and how you're querying it. And it tries to respond to that. I've seen a few references to AI wants to make you happy. It wants to give you an output that it thinks will please you. Sometimes that's not what you need. So yeah, it's not truly thinking. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I have used AI, like for inquiries. I'll be putting in something to ask a question and I get an answer and I go, I think that's the incorrect answer. And it come back and go, you're right. I gave the wrong answer. This is what the right
Wow.
answer is.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times? I mean, that happens so many times, but you have to be a human and you have to still keep thinking and don't just take whatever it said. All right, so we've got a few questions here in the chat that I'd like to jump to really quick. Um, there was one up here about if you're a pre-revenue. I saw the question.
Go down, go back down, go back down.
They're about being, yeah. So if you're a startup and it's pre-revenue, when would be a good time to start looking into the IP copyright process?
I mean, as early as possible. We do have systems in the United States that allow you to claim trademark rights before they call it an intent to use trademark. Generally, if you're more than 3 years from launch, then that's probably too far out. But generally, anytime if you think you're going to be hitting the market within 3 years, it's a good time to have that conversation. Obviously with pre-revenue, you're not going to be, probably filing every mark in every class and every country that you're looking for. One thing with trademark rights is they are just national. You can get and that's one thing we have with a lot of internet clients is they want to be global. They're starting up and they want to have clients all over the world. I'm like, well, you want to get trademark rights in 212 jurisdictions. It gets very, very expensive. The good part is then I think the next question was what does that cost for a trademark, a copyright, a patent? And it just depends on a number of factors. One thing with trademarks is you get trademark rights basically for the field of use that you're using your mark. And so a lot of times if a company grows and is in a lot of different fields, you have to claim additional fields. We call them classes of use. And every time you add a class, it sort of adds a filing fee. But I mean, a single class trademark application for a single mark, you can probably get one filed, for as low as $2,000, including the fees. Patents are more money. I would say several times more than that. Copyrights tend to be fairly cheap. I mean, I think the filing fee for a copyright is as low as $65. I mean, you've got some lawyer time, a couple hours, preparing it. So it's not, if you're pre-revenue, that's one thing we would want to talk about is sort of maybe, getting your main mark filed. And then as you grow, then maybe adding your logo. We will sort of rate your sort of tiers of trademark. This is what you gotta have. And then you'll sort of like, as you grow, the revenue starts coming in, then we'll start filing. So yeah.
And I would just say, the Jivan's question is if you're pre-revenue, and I think a lot of the things that we're talking about here are partly a cost of starting a business, and so you have to you should work that the finances of that into your plan for launching the business. And of course, Jason's right, prioritizing is part of that. But yeah.
Oh, a patent. If you have a patent, you get it done before you start doing revenue.
Oh yeah.
Because I work a lot with researchers that are developing patents, and then that's how they want to commercialize that. And to me, I cannot tell you how many times that these researchers will publish their work prior to the patent.
You're dead.
Yep, and it's gone.
If you publish it before you get it patented, you divulged it. That's what the whole idea of a patent is. You claim the exclusive right to do it by you get the patent and then you disclose it, and then that way there's a set term that no one. Okay, now he showed us how to do this, but because it's patented, we can't do it. But if you disclose it before you patent it, it's already out in the world, and you've given it to the world for free.
Yes.
And you can't stop anybody from doing it. And so you do want to make sure you're doing it early, especially with patents. But even copyrights and trademarks, one thing I do find a lot, I get people calling me in a panic. They've got a startup, they've never actually filed for a trademark. You don't necessarily have to register a trademark to have trademark rights, but one thing they don't think about is they're wanting to sort of start up a business and then sell it to venture capital. And a lot of times the venture capital people will say, well, we want a registration. We want to know we have the right to this trademark, not just you saying you have it. And so they're a month out from closing on this deal. And they're like, I need to file and get my trademark in the next month. I'm like, good luck, because I file a trademark for you. I can turn around and file it in a day or two, but it's going to take the Patent and Trademark Office. I think they're at 7 months right now to get to an application. So if we file right now, no one at the Patent and Trademark Office is looking at it until August, at the earliest. And so those are things that you want to be aware of, especially if you think that investors are going to want to come on board, because they're not just going to want to rely on your assumption that, well, we can get this registered. They want to see that it's registered before they put the money into it. So that's one reason to always, get it filed early.
You were going to say something earlier. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to, when somebody comes with pre-revenue, something that Gretchen said earlier when we first started is, if you're going to be writing contracts, you need an attorney when you're starting to write contracts, whether it's suppliers or customers or even employees. Even if I'm not talking about just, you need an attorney on board when you start writing contracts.
I'm having allergies today, and I'm trying to keep from sneezing all the time. So I'm so
Okay.
sorry. So I'm not trying to make faces at you when I was holding my nose. I was trying to keep from having a sneeze.
That's what I'm used to.
I did not think what you were saying was stinky. Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay. Risk and compliance. What are the biggest legal risks small businesses face when implementing AI and technology solutions, and how can they protect themselves? Gretchen, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think we've hit on a lot of it already, really. Did you have anything? Do you have like an example or anything particular in mind?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's real. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but understanding the technology, understanding what it's doing, like, we were talking just a minute ago about what you put into it, the data, materials, et cetera, that you put into it. How is that being protected? Who has access to that? Who has rights to it once you input it? That's a huge potential risk. Are you risking disclosing personal information that's protected by federal and state law by inputting it into this tool, as an example? That's a huge compliance issue. It's just really, I think the risks are not understanding what the technology is doing, not understanding what what rights you do and don't have, and what rights you're giving away. And then another, I'm not sure this really goes to compliant. Well, it does, I guess. Another big risk is expecting too much from the technology, because again, it's not doing, it can do, think of it as doing kind of a term that's used a lot with AI is decision support. So it supports you, it helps you, it can streamline some things for you. You're making the final decisions or the final assessment. So you could think of it as, for example, doing a preliminary risk assessment of a certain situation. But then you've got to go in and make sure that what it's telling you is accurate and that you've captured everything, that you've looked at everything you need to, that kind of thing. That's a very high level answer, but it's.
One thing I think about, and it's very pertinent to lawyers, but I think this applies to other fields of law as well. I mean, fields of industry is that, um, you've got to watch that the data you're putting into AI to use as a tool is data that you can disclose to a
Yeah, that's
Google
true.
or something
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
Attorneys have to watch this a lot. A lot of times, our clients like, why aren't you using AI more? I'm like, okay, well, I've got an attorney-client privilege. I cannot divulge my client information. But
Absolutely.
if I use AI to draft a complaint and I feed it a bunch of fact pattern that divulges information that could identify my client, I've violated attorney-client privilege by providing that information to Google or ChatGPT. I would imagine if you work in a healthcare field, you want to
Yeah.
use an AI tool that's going to analyze, let's figure out what's wrong with patient A, and you put in all of his conditions. If it's not the right AI, if it's not been approved by, whatever, American, yeah, you made a HIPAA violation, and not even just, healthcare law. There's any business. If you've got contracts with clients that you're not going to divulge information, you're not going to give pricing information, you're not going to, but you're feeding their information into an AI to help them, but you're breaking that trust by sharing it with the AI companies because now you've done that. So that's something you really gotta watch when you're
Absolutely.
using
Information on tax returns to run financial
Yeah.
analysis.
Accountants. Yeah,
That is really dangerous.
right.
All right, so there was a question in the chat, or they made a comment, and it's not every lawyer is equal.
Exactly.
You've heard the Pareto principle, right? 8%, 20%. Well, the people that I have on the panels that I invite, they're part of the 20%. They're not part of the 80% that are not as good lawyers. The 20% that I bring on my panels, they're always the best lawyers.
Well, also, what's the lawyer specializing in?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So how do you pick a really good lawyer? What do you tell people when you're talking?
Look at what they specialize in. If they have on the advertisement they do everything in the kitchen sink, they probably don't. But if they're doing IP, they're probably pretty good at doing IP. If they're doing business formation, they're probably pretty good at business formation. So
Well,
go ahead.
well, I think I saw Jorge's comment as well, and what I think it with almost any business, because I see this and Gretchen, you're probably in the same field. You got a lot of new businesses come to you, and they know what to do as far as their work, but they don't necessarily know how to start a business. I have a lot of clients who are restaurateurs, and just for some reason I do. And there's a reason a lot of restaurants fail. People come to you and they'll say, well, why do you want to open a restaurant? I open a restaurant because everyone says I cook the best food. I have a great
example I use all the time.
and whatever. And you know what? And they are. Their food is phenomenal. You know what they don't know how to do? They don't know how to source chicken at 25 cents a pound less than their competitors. They don't know how to handle table turnaround. They don't know how to set up ambiance. They don't know where to order napkins from.
How to feed 500 people.
Right. And those are the things that, and I don't think that's unique to any industry. And I think it's even the same way in the legal field. There are people who really know the law, but the really good attorneys also understand business because a law firm is a business. And to say, well, lawyers don't understand businesses. Well, look, there's a lot of lawyers that just go work for a firm. They just put their head down, they do the briefs, and they're sort of your worker bee lawyers. And they're good for that role. But is that the lawyer that you want who's going to be a trusted advisor to you to say, this is what makes sense for you from a business perspective to file right now? And yeah, I mean, I would imagine you deal with that a lot too, Gretchen, with being in your field.
We do, and Jorge made an excellent point, and it's so I say a lot that whatever your practice, your craft is completely different animal than running a business. So whether you're a lawyer or a restaurateur or a doctor, it doesn't matter. An artist, it doesn't matter. What that practice, that craft is complete. You can be very good at that and have no ability to run a business. And nobody, even you could run a business for 10 years and still not get better at it because it's not your thing, you know, and that's fine so long as you bring in the right people. But to get back to Jorge's point, and kind of tying into what Bill said too, when you pick a lawyer, you need to think about what, to the extent that you know what you're looking for, think about what that really is. And you know you want somebody to help you with these three things. So can they do those three things? But you know, if part of that, what outside of the legal perspective, and that goes to Jorge's, you know, you need somebody to help you do those three things in the context of starting a business. For that specifically, I would say, as a general rule, and not true across the board, look for smaller law firms that have been around for a while, that have where you know you're going to be working with someone that has started that business, that has got it off the ground, that has kept it running for 10 years or more. They can talk from the perspective of a business owner who's gotten down the road more than a year or two. And that, you know, it doesn't have to be the startup. I mean, you know, like Jason is at I would say small to mid-sized firm, but they were a startup at one point. They don't have 200 lawyers, where 90% of the lawyers are going to have no idea really how to go about starting a business, that relationship between running the business and practicing your craft and helping you build the full team that you need to run your business, which, you know, law, like Bill said earlier, CPA, insurance, maybe outside marketing, you know, whatever it is. So you look for a firm that has that experience beyond the law. And I would also suggest very strongly, always shop around. It's always a good idea to shop around and find a firm that meets all those things that we've been talking about, but that also feels like the right personality fit for you.
Yes,
The way they
Yes.
work, the
absolutely.
way they bill, and just, do I feel like I can sit and have a conversation like this with this person? Do I want somebody that will have a conversation with me about my kids for 10 minutes before we start getting into the work? Or do you want just no nonsense that gives you, you know, just here, take this, you're done? I mean, just, you know, what is it that you're looking for? Shop around, find somebody that you feel comfortable with and that you feel like you can trust.
Yeah, there's all types of that. I mean, I have clients that will, you know, they want to ask me about my kids and talk about basketball, and then you got other clients that just they want one word answers, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
and that when I'm referring, you know, especially in law, people come to you, you know, I do intellectual property, but I'll have a client is like, can you help me with some tax issue? And I'm like, you know, do you go to your podiatrist and ask about like a lung problem? But you know, I'm looking at attorneys to refer to, and I always have
Yes.
more than one attorney in each field, because I'm like, this guy seems kind of a gregarious guy. I'm going to send him to Gretchen. Or, you know, this guy's a little more cut and dry. And you have to have that network, because we're
Yes.
not all the same. It's like any field, you know, not all businesses are the same, not all lawyers are the same. So I think maybe just sort of that generalization. I guess it hit a nerve at this
But
meeting.
but it's so true. I mean, I had a client that I was trying to get a fractional CFO to go, and the first person that I recommended, the personalities did not fit. And my client was going, I have no idea what this guy's going to do for me. It had nothing to do with what he said. It was because the personality didn't match. He didn't. So then I bring in David,
Mm-hmm.
soy soy.
Yeah.
And you know, like he rides a motorcycle, he's out there, this guy is a fence. And the two of them hit it off immediately.
Right.
Well, because they talk the same language.
Yeah.
They both, you know, were the same. And all of a sudden he could hear what Dave was saying to him versus what the other guy had been saying to him. He just didn't hear it because their personalities were so different.
Right.
You know, so yeah, that makes such a difference. And I was thinking about restaurants when you were talking. The first business I ever owned was a restaurant. I do not cook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Honestly, I can
Yeah.
tell you, when clients come to me and they're saying they're starting a restaurant, I can usually tell if they're going to be successful, because if they talk about, I make the best pudding and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, good. But
Yes,
if they're like,
barbecue.
you know, we're looking at traffic patterns and we really see that
Yeah.
you know, Route 620 corridor is underserved, and we can, you know, then I'm like, they're going to make it. And
Yep.
you know what they never talk about? Food. And because a lot of times people with restaurants, you want good food, but you also just want consistency.
Oh my God.
And
it has to be consistent.
You're paying for consistency. And if they're talking more about, just sourcing things consistently and whatever, then I usually know they're gonna maintain it. But it's with any field. I know, trying to find a basketball coach for my kids, like, you call them all, they all know basketball really well. I would never like open a business. They don't even know how to answer the phone. They're just like, hey, yeah, yeah. And it's like, what if this person had like a business acumen, they would be great. But then you go and they're like, I'm like already put off. Like, they're going to be terrible. They're going to be a terrible coach. He didn't know how to talk on the phone. Then you get there and you're like, this guy's a really good basketball coach. But that's,
And
that's the thing you got to learn is
And Jason,
not
what
just the
Jason was
crap.
saying, and what Jason was saying about the restaurant example, that comes back to the planning. The reason most businesses fail is lack of planning. And it's, plans change, that's fine, but it has to be an ongoing, constant, continual thing. Plans can morph, but if you don't have a plan, really high chance your business is not going to make it.
And if you
Really
don't understand your target market, if you don't understand what the need is within that target market, yeah, you might want to open up a restaurant, but you want to make sure you find out what type of restaurant is really needed in that area,
Yes.
right? So you've got to do, they both have to come together. My background's in operations management, so anything has to do with SOP, standard operating procedures, I'm all in for. And that's why I was so successful as a restaurant owner, was because I was looking at it from a business standpoint,
Exactly.
and not the cooking, which was a really good thing that we had other people cooking and not me.
Yeah.
So we're
Business
almost
plan. Oh, go ahead, Jana.
business plan. Well, because we're getting close to the end of our
Yeah.
time, and so I wanted to have one last question for everybody. So, what is one takeaway you'd want everybody to take from this session today, about AI and technology? And why don't we start with Gretchen and go back around the room? And Bill, I will not forget you.
Why don't we start with Jason? Let me think about that for a second.
Okay.
Oh,
All right, Jason.
Wow. Okay. Now I'm on the spot. Okay. I just think the takeaway is just making sure that what you put into an AI tool, you might be giving it away. And then also understanding that what you get out of an AI tool might not be for you. It might still be theirs. So it's one of those things. This is not a physical thing where I give this to you and then you give me something in return. It could be all a one-way transaction that you think is a two-way deal. And so you have to read those terms and conditions and understand, that this is not something you can just put information in, get it out, and say, oh, because I have this information, it is now mine.
I thought you were actually going to give me that.
Here you go.
And he took it away.
I know.
You're a lawyer. Gretchen, what about
Okay.
you?
I think I would say Jason's absolutely right, of course, but in addition, just be really clear about why you're considering this tool. What is it that you're trying to, what are your goals, or what is it you're trying to achieve with this? And is it really going to look at it very critically? Is it really going to give you what you think it's going to, or what it is that you want it to give you? And if not, is it giving you enough? Everything's a trade-off, right? What are you giving it, to Jason's point, or what are you getting from it? And is that trade-off worthwhile? AI doesn't make everything easier. It makes some things easier. It doesn't make everything easier. Yeah.
Bill.
Well, two things. I would suggest, and disagree with me if you want to, but don't use online, non-human electronics for legal decisions, such as LegalZoom.
Yeah.
Things that are free, that's usually a bad sign. If it's something you're not
What you pay
paying
for. Yeah, you
Right.
get what you pay for.
Just
Don't use
really
AI to
don't.
make any decisions for you. They help you, they give you some potentially useful information to help you make a decision. Yeah.
And the other thing is AI is here to stay. And I work with clients who, if you don't know AI and how to use it appropriately, you're not going to be competitive as a small business because it's here to stay and your competition is going to be using it. but you have to know how to use it and when not to use it, and check your resources.
I think the one thing I'd want to make sure that we leave with is that have standard operating procedures about how you're going to use AI in your business. So it's consistent across everybody on your team, that everybody on your team understands how you're using AI. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. I know you had a choice of where to spend your time, and today being a holiday, Martin Luther King Day. Thank you so much for taking time out of your holiday to be with us. Gretchen and Jason, you forgot that it was a holiday. Thank you for being here. And Bill had no choice. He has to be here.
My kids are home by themselves, burning the house down right now.
Yeah, he has triplets. I mean, talk about great stories. Yeah. Yeah. So if you ever want to have great stories, talk with Jason about his triplets. It's always entertaining. But everybody, thank you everybody for being here. And yes, Jane will be sending out all of our contact information. And then if you want to go to my website, menifeellc.com, please do and sign up for the newsletter. And I do have a new personal assistant, which I absolutely adore. Her name is Gladdy, and she's getting out newsletters for me on time. So it's awesome. So thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all.